I transferred to San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department on a Tuesday in October. The recruiter had been honest about the posting: graveyard patrol, solo vehicle, 200-mile circuit through unincorporated desert. The pay bump covered my daughter's out-of-state tuition and the lingering credit card debt from the divorce. I signed the contract in a prefab office that smelled like hot plastic and drove east on the 15 until the billboards stopped. The station sat 40 miles past Barstow, a low cinder-block structure painted the color of sand. 6 vehicles in the lot, 2 with flat tires. Inside, the day shift sergeant handed me a locker key, a radio, and a laminated map with my patrol zone highlighted in yellow. He was 50, maybe older, with sunburned forearms and a name tag that read, Vasquez. "You'll cover sectors E through K," he said. "That's Route 66 remnants, a few ranch access roads, and the eastern flats. No gas stations past mile marker 114. Fuel up before 2100 hours." I nodded. The map showed empty grid squares with occasional dots labeled residence or abandoned structure. A thick red line marked the northern boundary. "Don't cross the red line," Vasquez said. "That's federal land. They don't like us up there." "Understood." He pulled a folded paper from his desk drawer. "These are your standing orders. Read them tonight before you roll out. Keep them in the vehicle. Some of this will sound strange. Follow it anyway." The paper was warm in my hand. Photocopied so many times the text had gone gray at the edges. "Any questions?" he asked. "And what happened to the last deputy on this route?" Vasquez looked at me for 3 seconds. "He transferred to Riverside. You start at 2200 hours. Be here at 2130 to check out your vehicle and inventory your supplies." He left. I unfolded the paper. The heading read, Patrol Procedures, Sectors E to K, Graveyard Shift. Below that, 14 numbered items in a sans serif font. I read it twice in the empty briefing room, then folded it back up and slipped it into my shirt pocket. At 21:15, I drove to the gas station on the eastern edge of Barstow and filled the tank. The attendant was a kid with a neck tattoo who didn't look up from his phone. I bought 2 bottles of water, a bag of sunflower seeds, and a black coffee. The total came to $9.63, and I paid with a 10 and left the change on the counter. Back at the station, Vasquez had gone home. A deputy named Ortega helped me load the patrol vehicle, a white Ford Explorer with 140,000 miles on it. The back seat held a plastic bin with the following inventory, which Ortega made me count aloud while he checked items off a clipboard. 4 road flares, factory sealed, 2 12-packs of bottled water, 1 first aid kit, 1 mag light, 6 D-cell batteries, 1 coil of yellow nylon rope, 50 feet, 1 folding shovel, 6 meal replacement bars in silver wrappers, 1 emergency blanket vacuum sealed. "Salt?" Ortega asked. I looked in the bin, a clear plastic container of Morton table salt, the blue label faded. "1 container of salt," I said. "Good. I don't use it unless you have to." "What's it for?" He didn't answer, just initialed the clipboard and handed me a second sheet. This one was titled, Radio Protocols. "Channel 3 is dispatch," he said. "Channel 6 is emergency only. Don't use Channel 6 unless you're using it." "What's the difference?" "You'll know." He tapped the sheet. "Read the call signs. Use them exactly as written. Don't improvate." I scanned the list. My call sign was Desert 6. Dispatch was home base. There were 3 others, Desert 2, Desert 9, and Overlook. No explanation of what Overlook was. "Who's Overlook?" I asked. Ortega closed the Explorer's rear hatch. "If you hear Overlook on the radio, respond with your 1020 and stand by. I don't ask questions on the air." "Is Overlook another deputy?" "Just do what the protocols say." He checked his watch. "You've got 12 minutes. Drive safe." I climbed into the Explorer. The interior smelled like old coffee and something sweet and rotten. I adjusted the seat and mirrors, tested the headlights and the light bar. The radio was an older Motorola model, the volume knob taped in place with a strip of masking tape labeled, "Do not adjust below 4." I pulled the folded paper from my pocket and read it again under the dome light. Patrol procedures. Sectors E to K. Graveyard Shift 1. Begin patrol no earlier than 2200 hours and no later than 2215 hours. Drive the full circuit in the order marked on your map. Do not deviate from the route except as outlined in Procedures 6 and 11. 2. Between 2200 and 2300 hours. Check in with dispatch every 20 minutes on Channel 3 using the phrase Desert 6, routine check, no activity. Dispatch will respond, copy, Desert 6. If dispatch does not respond, wait 5 minutes and try again. If dispatch does not respond after 3 attempts, proceed to Procedure 13. 3. Do not stop your vehicle between mile markers 114 and 132, except at designated pull-offs marked on your map with green circles. If you stop anywhere else in this range, remain in the vehicle with doors locked and engine running. Do not exit the vehicle for any reason. If you see another vehicle stopped in this range, do not approach it. Note the location and report it to dispatch after you have cleared mile marker 132. 4. If you encounter a person on foot between mile markers 114 and 132, slow to 15 miles per hour but do not stop. Observe the individual as you pass. If the individual waves, do not wave back. If the individual attempts to flag you down, continue driving. Report the encounter to dispatch only after clearing mile marker 132. Use the phrase Desert 6, pedestrian contact at mile marker number, continuing patrol. 5. At mile marker 118, you will pass an abandoned gas station on the south side of the road. The station has 2 pumps, a small building, and a faded chevron sign. Do not enter the property. As you pass, verify that the building's front door is closed. If the door is open, note the time and continue driving. Report to dispatch using the phrase Desert 6 to structure breach at 118, time. Dispatch will acknowledge and provide further instruction. 6. If you observe animal activity that appears unusual, do not investigate. Unusual activity includes animals moving in perfect circles, animals standing motionless for extended periods, animals moving backward, groups of animals in formations of 7 or more in a straight line. Note the location and type of animal. Report to dispatch after completing your current sector. Use the phrase Desert 6, wildlife anomaly at location, continuing patrol. 7. Between 0100 and 0300 hours, monitor Channel 6 in addition to Channel 3. You may hear radio traffic on Channel 6 that does not follow standard protocols. Do not respond to this traffic. Do not acknowledge it. And if you hear your call sign on Channel 6, do not answer. Continue monitoring both channels and proceed with your patrol route. 8. At 0200 hours, you will reach the eastern turnaround point at mile marker 147. Park at the designated pull-off. Exit your vehicle. Walk 30 paces due north from the front bumper. You will see a metal stake painted orange. Verify that the stake is upright. If the stake is missing or knocked over, return to your vehicle immediately. Lock the doors and contact dispatch on Channel 3 using the phrase Desert 6. Marker down at 147 requesting guidance. Do not attempt to replace or repair the stake. 9. You do not shine your spotlight or flashlight directly at any structure between 0100 and 0400 hours unless you are responding to a confirmed emergency. If you must illuminate a structure, do so briefly and from a distance of at least 50 yards. 10. If you see lights inside any structure marked abandoned on your map, note the location and time. Do not approach the structure. Do not announce your presence. Continue patrol and report to dispatch after clearing the sector. Use the phrase Desert 6, lighting observed at location, time, continuing patrol. 11. If your vehicle experiences mechanical failure, attempt to restart it 3 times. If it does not start, contact dispatch on Channel 3 with your 1020 and the nature of the failure. Remain in the vehicle with doors locked and engine off. If you do not exit the vehicle, do not accept assistance from any civilian who stops to help. If someone approaches your vehicle, do not roll down your window. Wait for dispatch to send a tow or a backup unit. 12. You will encounter 3 residences on your route, one at mile marker 121, one at mile marker 134, and one at mile marker 143. These are occupied. Do not stop at these residences unless you observe clear signs of distress or emergency. Clear signs include windows broken, doors open, visible fire, or someone waving from a lit window. Do not respond to porch lights being turned on or off, vehicles in driveways, or outdoor lights. 13. If dispatch does not respond to 3 consecutive radio checks, switch to channel 6 and transmit the following message exactly. Desert 6. Comms failure. Switching to emergency protocol. Wait 10 minutes. If you receive no response, continue your patrol route and attempt to re-establish contact every 30 minutes. Do not return to the station until 0600 hours or until contact is re-established. 14. Complete your patrol circuit and return to the station no earlier than 0530 and no later than 0600 hours. Park in your assigned space. Inventory your supplies and report any missing or used items to the oncoming shift supervisor. If you used salt, flares, or rope, you must file a supplemental incident report before leaving the station. Do not discuss the contents of this report with anyone except the shift supervisor or the watch commander. I folded the paper and checked the dashboard clock. 2200 hours exactly. I put the Explorer in gear and rolled out of the lot. The first sector was a long stretch of 2-lane blacktop that ran parallel to an old railroad grade. No streetlights. High desert scrub on both sides, creosote and Joshua trees lit silver by the half-moon. I passed mile marker 114 at 22:18 and reduced my speed to 50. At 22:20, I keyed the radio. Desert 6, routine check, no activity. Static, then a woman's voice. Copy, Desert 6. I noted the time on the pad velcroed to the dashboard, 22:20. The road was straight for miles. I saw no other vehicles. At mile marker 118, the abandoned gas station appeared on my right, exactly as described. 2 pumps, a small cinder block building, a chevron sign tilted on a rusted pole. The building's front door was closed. I noted the time, 22:31, and continued. At 22:40, I radioed in again. Dispatch copied. Mile marker 121, a single residence set back from the road, a double-wide trailer with a gravel driveway. Porch light off, no vehicles visible. I slowed to 40 and scanned the property, no broken windows, no open doors. I accelerated back to 50 and continued east. At 2300 hours, I reached mile marker 132 and the landscape opened up. The road climbed a low rise and the valley spread out below. A vast black emptiness under the stars. I could see the lights of a small town 30 miles south, too far to identify. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, routine check, no activity. Dispatch copied. The procedures said check-ins every 20 minutes until 2300, then as needed. I clicked the radio back to standby and settled into the drive. At 23:42, I passed mile marker 134. Another residence, this one a small ranch house with a detached garage. Lights visible in the front windows. A blue pickup in the driveway. I slowed, checked for any signs of distress. Nothing. I continued. Mile marker 147 was the turnaround point. I reached it at 00:17, 3 minutes past midnight. The pull-off was a widened shoulder with a ring of large rocks marking the boundary. I parked, killed the engine, and grabbed the mag light from the bin. Outside, the temperature had dropped into the low 50s. No wind. The silence was total, no insects, no distant traffic. I clicked on the mag light and counted 30 paces north from the front bumper, watching my boots in the cone of light. The orange stake was there. A 3-foot length of rebar painted bright orange driven into the hardpan. Upright and secure. I stood looking at it for 10 seconds, then turned and walked back to the Explorer. I noted the time on my pad. 00:22, marker verified. I started the engine and headed west, retracing my route. At 0100 hours, I switched on Channel 6 in addition to Channel 3. The scanner cycled between the two. Channel 3 was silent. Channel 6 hissed with static, then a brief squelch, then silence again. I passed the residence at mile marker 143 at 0112. Porch light on, no other activity. I continued. At 0138, I was approaching mile marker 132 when I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. They appeared suddenly, maybe half a mile back, closing fast. And I checked my speed, 50 exactly, and watched the lights grow. The vehicle pulled to within 100 feet and matched my speed. I couldn't make out the type. Headlights too bright, positioned high. Maybe a truck. I keyed channel 3. Desert 6, vehicle contact. Westbound at mile marker 130, continuing patrol. No response from dispatch. I waited 10 seconds and tried again. Desert 6, vehicle contact, westbound at mile marker 130, continuing patrol. Static. The headlights stayed fixed in my mirror, neither gaining nor falling back. I gripped the wheel and maintained 50. The procedure said report vehicle contacts, but didn't say what to do if the vehicle followed. I thought about accelerating, but the procedures said don't deviate from the route. Speed was part of the route. At mile marker 128, the headlights dropped back. I watched them shrink in the mirror until they disappeared around a curve. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, vehicle contact has broken off, continuing patrol. Still no response. I checked the time. 0154. I was approaching the scheduled check-in window, but dispatch hadn't acknowledged my last 2 transmissions. I cycled the radio to confirm it was on channel 3. The display showed channel 3 in green numerals. At 0200, I tried again. Desert 6, routine check, no activity. Silence. I waited 5 minutes and tried again. Silence. I counted to 60 and tried a third time. Desert 6, requesting radio check. Nothing. Procedure 13. 3 consecutive failures. I switched to channel 6 and transmitted. Desert 6, comms failure. Switching to emergency protocol. I waited 10 minutes. The radio gave me nothing but static and occasional bursts of white noise. I noted the time, 0215, and continued west. At 0223, I passed the residence at mile marker 121. Porch light on now, though it had been off on my eastbound pass. The procedure said porch lights didn't qualify as distress. I slowed to 40, scanned the property, continued. At 0236, I reached mile marker 118. The abandoned gas station sat dark on the south side of the road. I slowed to 30 and aimed my headlights at the building. The front door was open. I hit the brakes and stopped in the middle of the road, 50 yards from the property. The door hung motionless, a black rectangle against the lighter gray of the cinder block wall. I noted the time on my pad. 0238. Procedure 5 said report to dispatch, but I had no comms. I sat with the engine idling and debated my options. I could continue to the station and report in person. I could wait here and keep trying the radio. I could investigate. The procedures said don't enter the property. They said continue driving. They said report. I put the Explorer in gear and continued west. In my side mirror, the open door shrank to a sliver of black and then disappeared. At 0300 hours, I tried the radio again. Channel 3, Channel 6, both silent. I was 15 minutes from the station. I decided to complete the circuit and report everything when I arrived. At 0311, I was passing mile marker 109 when the radio crackled. Desert 6, home base. I grabbed the handset. Desert 6, he'd go ahead. Desert 6, confirm your 1020. Desert 6, westbound at mile marker 109 ETA to station 15 minutes. Copy, Desert 6, radio check successful, comms restored, proceed to station. Copy, home base. Desert 6 had multiple findings to report. Structure breach at mile marker 118 at 0238 hours. Vehicle contact at mile marker 130. Contact broke off at mile marker 128 at approximately 0155. Comms failure from 0200 to 0311. A pause. Copy all, Desert 6. Proceed to station and file supplemental. Home base out. I hung the handset and exhaled. My hands were shaking slightly. I gripped the wheel tighter. The station appeared at 0324. I parked in my assigned space and killed the engine. The lot was empty except for Vasquez's pickup. I grabbed my notepad and went inside. Vasquez was in the briefing room with a cup of coffee. He looked up when I entered. Ortega said you had comms failure, he said. From 0200 to 0311. I followed procedure 13. Switched to channel 6, continued patrol, tried to re-establish every 30 minutes. He nodded. Anything else? I told him about the open door at mile marker 118 and the vehicle contact. He listened without interrupting, then stood and walked to a filing cabinet. He pulled out a blank form and slid it across the table. Fill this out, he said. Time, location, description. Keep it factual, no speculation. I sat and filled out the form. It took 10 minutes. When I finished, Vasquez took it and initialed the bottom. Ian, the door at 118 has been reported before, he said. Don't go inside. Don't stop there during your patrol. Just note it and report it. What's opening the door? Wind, animals, structural settling. Doesn't matter. You see it open, you report it. And the vehicle that followed me? Vasquez sipped his coffee. Could be anyone. Locals, truckers, people passing through. Did they try to stop you or force you off the road? No. Then it's noted and we move on. He looked at the wall clock. You're off shift, go home. Come back at 21:30 tomorrow. I stood. Is there anything else I should know about this route? He met my eyes. The procedures cover it. Follow them exactly, don't improvise. I left the station and drove west on the 15. The sun was rising behind me, turning the desert pink and gold. I reached my apartment in Victorville at 0720, set an alarm for 1600 hours, and slept. The second night was quieter. I completed the circuit with no comms failures, no vehicle contacts, no open doors. The orange stake at mile marker 147 was upright. I radioed in every 20 minutes until 2300, then, as needed. Dispatch acknowledged every call. At 0215, I passed the abandoned gas station. The door was closed. I returned to the station at 0547, inventoried my supplies, and went home. The third night started the same. Clear skies, no moon, temperature in the mid-50s. I rolled out at 2200 and headed east on the route. Dispatch copied my first check-in. And at 2336, I was approaching mile marker 143 when I saw someone standing on the shoulder. I slowed to 15 miles per hour as instructed in Procedure 4. The figure was 30 yards ahead on the right side, just beyond the reach of my headlights. As I closed the distance, I saw it was a man, tall, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. He stood facing the road with his arms at his sides. I maintained 15 miles per hour and observed him as I passed. He didn't wave, didn't move. His face was shadowed, but I thought I saw him turn his head to watch the explorer. I accelerated back to 50 and continued east. At mile marker 145, I keyed the radio. Desert 6, pedestrian contact at mile marker 143, continuing patrol. Dispatch copied. At mile marker 147, I parked and walked to the orange stake, upright. I noted the time, 0019, and returned to the vehicle. On the westbound leg, I passed mile marker 143 at 0111. The man was gone. At 0140, I reached mile marker 121, the first residence. I slowed to 40 and scanned the property, porch light off, no vehicles. As I drew level with the driveway, I saw a figure standing near the front door of the trailer. I hit the brakes and stopped in the road. The figure was silhouetted against the trailer's white siding, arms at its sides, motionless. Same posture as the man at mile marker 143. I waited. The figure didn't move. Procedure 12 said don't stop unless there are clear signs of distress. This wasn't a clear sign, and it was someone standing on their own property. I put the Explorer in gear and continued west. In my mirror, I saw the figure turn to face the road. At 0200 hours, I tried my routine check. Dispatch copied. Comms were good. At 0239, I passed mile marker 118. The gas station door was closed. I reached the station at 0550 and filed a supplemental report on the pedestrian contact. Vasquez read it and initialed it without comment. Same guy at two different locations? He asked. I don't know. The lighting was poor. Could have been two different people. Could have been. He filed the report. You off tomorrow? Yes. Good. See you Saturday night. I drove home and slept. Saturday night I rolled out at 2200, and the temperature had dropped into the 40s and a wind was blowing from the north, gusting to 20 miles per hour. Tumbleweeds skittered across the road in my headlights. At mile marker 114, I slowed to 50 and began the long stretch through the restricted zone. The wind buffeted the Explorer, and I gripped the wheel with both hands. At 0043, I reached mile marker 147. The wind was stronger here, howling across the open flats. I parked and stepped out into the cold. I counted 30 paces and found the orange stake bent at a 45-degree angle, the top 6 inches folded over. I stood looking at it. The procedure said if the stake is missing or knocked over, return to your vehicle immediately and contact dispatch. It didn't specify bent. I walked back to the Explorer and keyed the radio. Our Desert 6, marker damaged at 147, requesting guidance. Static then. Desert 6, describe damage. Stake is bent approximately 45 degrees. Top portion folded over. Stake is still in the ground. A long pause. Copy, Desert 6. Note the time and continue patrol. Do not attempt repair. Copy, home base. Time is 0049. I noted it on my pad and put the Explorer in gear. The westbound leg was uneventful until 0155. I was passing mile marker 123 when something ran across the road in front of me. I hit the brakes. The animal, a coyote I thought, disappeared into the scrub on the south side. I scanned the shoulder and saw it again, trotting parallel to the road about 20 feet out. It was moving backward. I watched it for 5 seconds, and the coyote's body was oriented forward, but it was moving backward, paws stepping in reverse, head turning to look behind itself as it retreated into the darkness. Procedure 6. Unusual animal activity, animals moving backward. I noted the location, mile marker 123, and the time, 0156, and continued west. At 0200, I radioed in. Desert 6, routine check, no activity. Dispatch copied. At 0205, I added, Desert 6, wildlife anomaly at mile marker 123, continuing patrol. Copy, Desert 6, type of animal? Appeared to be a coyote, moving backward. Pause. Copy, noted, continue patrol. I continued. At 0240, I passed the gas station. Door closed. At 0310, I was approaching mile marker 108 when I saw headlights ahead. A vehicle was parked on the shoulder, her hazards flashing. As I got closer, I saw it was an old sedan, Premier gray, hood up. I slowed to 30 and pulled alongside, staying in the roadway. A man stood near the front bumper, waving both arms. He was in his 60s, wearing a denim jacket and a ball cap. I stopped and rolled down my window 2 inches. Need help? I called. Engine died, he shouted over the wind. You got a jump cable? Procedure 11. Do not accept assistance from any civilian. Do not exit your vehicle. But this was reversed. He was asking me for assistance. The procedures didn't cover it. I hesitated. The man walked toward my window. Just need a jump. Got cables in the trunk. I'll call a tow for you, I said. Come on, man, just a jump. Take 2 minutes. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, disabled vehicle at mile marker 108, to civilian requesting assistance. The man stopped 5 feet from my window. His face was shadowed by the brim of his cap. You really gonna make me wait for a tow? It's freezing out here. Dispatch responded. Desert 6, do not exit your vehicle. Provide location to civilian and advise a tow has been dispatched. I relayed the message. The man stared at me for 3 seconds, then smiled. Sure. Okay. I'll wait. He walked back to the sedan and leaned against the fender, arms crossed. I put the Explorer in gear and continued west. In my mirror, I saw him standing there, motionless, watching me go. At the station, Vasquez was waiting. You handled that right, he said. Why couldn't I help him? Because you don't know who he is or why he's out there. Because the procedures say stay in your vehicle. It because I said so. Did you send a tow? There's no tow, there's nobody out there. I stared at him. I saw him. He was standing right there. Vasquez sipped his coffee. I'm sure you did, now go home. I didn't sleep well that day. I kept seeing the man smile, the way he leaned against the sedan like he had all the time in the world. Sunday night I rolled out at 2200 and completed the circuit without incident. The orange steak was still bent. The gas station door stayed closed. I saw no pedestrians, no unusual animals, no disabled vehicles. Monday night was the same. Tuesday night the wind picked up again. Gusts to 30, cold enough that I turned on the heater. At mile marker 134 I slowed to check the residence and saw the blue pickup was gone. Porch light on. No other changes. At 0020 I reached the turnaround point. The orange steak was upright again. I walked to it and examined the base. The ground around it looked freshly disturbed, scuffed in a circle as if something had dug and then been filled in. I crouched and played my flashlight over the dirt. No footprints, just the scuffed circle. I returned to the Explorer and noted the time. 0026. Marker repaired. I radioed it in. Dispatch copied without comment. At 0214, I was passing mile marker 119 when the radio crackled. Desert 6, home base. Desert 6, go ahead. Desert 6, be advised we have a report of a possible disturbance at the residence at mile marker 121. Approach with caution and assess, report findings. I keyed back. Copy home base, ETA 3 minutes. I accelerated to 60. At mile marker 121, I slowed and turned into the gravel driveway. My headlights sweeping across the trailer. Porch light off. Front door closed. No broken windows. I stopped 20 feet from the front door and scanned the property. No movement, no vehicles. I rolled down my window and listened. Wind, the creak of metal, nothing else. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, on scene at 121. No visible signs of distress, requesting further guidance. Copy Desert 6. Exit your vehicle and knock on the front door. Identify yourself and ask if occupants need assistance. I hesitated. The procedures said don't stop at residences unless you observe clear signs of distress. This contradicted that. Copy home base. I stepped out of the Explorer and walked to the front door. The porch was plywood, the steps concrete blocks. I knocked 3 times. Sheriff's Department. Anyone need assistance? Silence. I knocked again. This is the Sheriff's Department. We received a report of a disturbance. Is anyone home? Footsteps inside. The door opened 6 inches and a woman looked out. She was in her 40s, thin hair pulled back. She wore a bathrobe and held a phone in her left hand. I didn't call anyone, she said. We received a report. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I glanced past her into the trailer. Dim light from a hallway, shadows. Are you alone? My husband's asleep. We're fine. I don't know who called you. I nodded. Okay, sorry to disturb you. She closed the door. I heard the deadbolt slide. I returned to the Explorer and keyed the radio. Desert 6, contact made at 121. Occupant reports no disturbance. No assistance needed. Copy, Desert 6. Continue patrol. I backed out of the driveway and headed west. At 0244, I passed the gas station. Door closed. At 0553, I returned to the station. Vasquez was waiting. Who called in the disturbance? I asked. Dispatch received a call on the non-emergency line. Caller reported sounds of an argument at that address. The woman said she didn't call. She didn't, someone else did. Who? Vasquez shrugged. Anonymous. I filled out a supplemental report and went home. Wednesday night I rolled out at 2200. Clear skies, no wind, temperature in the low 50s. At mile marker 114 I slowed to 50 and settled into the routine. At 0016 I reached the turnaround point. The orange steak was upright. I noted the time and headed west. At 0133 I was passing mile marker 137 when I saw lights inside a structure marked abandoned on my map. The structure was a small cinder block building about 100 yards south of the road, half hidden by creosote. Lights flickered in the windows, yellow and unsteady like candles or a fire. I slowed to 30 and noted the time. 01:35. Procedure 10 said don't approach, don't announce your presence, just note and report. I continued west and radioed it in at 01:40, dispatch copied. At 02:51 I passed the gas station, door open. I hit the brakes and stopped 50 yards out. The door hung motionless, the black rectangle stark against the gray wall. I noted the time, 02:52, and continued west without stopping. At the station, Vasquez reviewed my report. Lights at 1:37 and door open at 1:18, both noted. Anything else? What's in that building at 1:37? It's abandoned? Then who's inside? He looked at me. It's abandoned. You see lights, you report them, that's the procedure. Someone's in there. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, you don't approach, you don't investigate, you report and you continue patrol. I wanted to argue, but his expression stopped me. I nodded and left. Thursday night, I rolled out and completed the circuit. The orange stake was upright. The gas station door was closed. I saw no lights in abandoned buildings, no pedestrians, no unusual animals. At 05:49, I returned to the station. Vasquez handed me a new sheet of paper. Amendments, he said. Read them before your next shift. I unfolded the paper. The heading read, Amended Procedures, effective immediately. Below that, 8 new items. 1. If you encounter the same pedestrian at more than one location during a single patrol, do not stop. Do not engage. Note the locations and times and report to dispatch only after completing your full circuit. Do not report during the patrol. 2. Between 0100 and 0400 hours, if you see your own vehicle parked on the shoulder ahead of you, do not approach it. Reduce speed to 20 miles per hour and observe as you pass. Note any details, position, condition, whether it is occupied. Continue to the next sector and report to dispatch using the phrase Desert 6, mirror contact at mile marker number, continuing patrol. 3. If dispatch asks you to perform a task not outlined in the original procedures or these amendments, I'd respond with the phrase, request confirmation of instruction. If dispatch repeats the instruction verbatim, comply. If dispatch does not repeat verbatim or gives a different instruction, disregard and continue your patrol. Report the discrepancy at the end of your shift. 4. Do not use your spotlight to illuminate any area not directly related to a traffic stop or confirmed emergency. If you must use your spotlight, limit use to 10 seconds or less and immediately turn it off. Do not sweep the spotlight across open desert or structures. 5. If you hear knocking on your vehicle while stopped at the turnaround point at mile marker 147, do not open the door. Do not look to see who is knocking. Start your engine, verify the orange stake from inside the vehicle using your headlights, and depart immediately. Report to dispatch using the phrase Desert 6, contact at turnaround, continuing patrol. 6. The residence at mile marker 121 has been removed from your patrol route. Do not stop there. Do not respond to calls involving that address. If dispatch directs you to that location, follow procedure 3. 7. If you observe more than 3 vehicles in the parking lot of the station when you return at the end of your shift, do not enter the building. Park in your assigned space. Lock your vehicle and wait in your vehicle until a supervisor exits the building and approaches you. If no supervisor exits within 20 minutes, call the emergency number on the back of your badge and request instructions. 8. At 03:30 hours, you will receive a radio check from a call sign you do not recognize, and the transmission will be garbled or difficult to understand. Do not respond. Do not attempt to clarify. Wait 60 seconds. If the transmission repeats, switch to channel 6 and transmit Desert 6, standing by and nothing else. Then switch back to channel 3 and continue patrol. I read the amendments twice. Why the changes? Vasquez was typing at a computer. Conditions change, procedures adapt. Follow them. What's a mirror contact? He stopped typing. Exactly what it sounds like. You'll know it if you see it. I folded the amendments and slipped them into my pocket with the original procedures. Friday night, I rolled out at 2200 hours. I had both documents on the seat beside me. At mile marker 147, I parked and walked to the orange stake. Upright, I noted the time, 0018, and turned to walk back. And 3 knocks on metal. Slow, deliberate, coming from the direction of the explorer. I froze. The procedure said, "Don't look, don't open the door, start the engine and depart." I turned and walked toward the vehicle, eyes on the ground. I opened the driver's door, climbed in, and started the engine without looking at the windows or mirrors. I shifted into gear and pulled out, my headlights sweeping across the stake. It was upright. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, contact at turnaround, continuing patrol. Dispatch copied. At 0148, I was passing mile marker 133 when I saw my own vehicle parked on the shoulder ahead. I slowed to 20 and felt my pulse hammering. The Explorer was 100 yards out, white paint glowing in my headlights, angled onto the shoulder with the light bar visible on the roof. And as I closed the distance, I saw it was facing the wrong direction, east, toward me. And the driver's door was open. I maintained 20 miles per hour and passed it on the left. The interior was dark. No one in the driver's seat, no one visible in the back. The license plate was unreadable, covered in dust or mud. I continued west and noted the time, 0151. At 0200, I radioed in. Desert 6, routine check, no activity. Dispatch copied. At 0215, I added, Desert 6, mirror contact at mile marker 133, continuing patrol. Pause. Copy Desert 6, note the time and continue. At 0256, I passed the gas station. Door closed. At 0330, the radio crackled. Des 6, ease resp... Garbled. I waited 60 seconds. The transmission repeated, just as broken. Euro Des 6, lease op, and... I switched to channel 6 and transmitted, Desert 6, standing by. I switched back to channel 3 and continued west. At 0551, I returned to the station. 2 vehicles in the lot. Vasquez's pickup and my patrol vehicle. I parked, inventoried my supplies, and went inside. Vasquez was in the briefing room. Report. I told him about the knocking at the turnaround and the mirror contact. He listened and made notes on a legal pad. Did you look at who was knocking? He asked. No. Good. Did you stop at the mirror vehicle? No. Passed it at 20 miles per hour as instructed. Good. He initialed my report. You're off this weekend, back Monday night. I drove home and slept poorly. Monday night I rolled out at 2200. The air was cold and still, no wind. Our temperature in the upper 30s. At mile marker 114, I slowed to 50 and began the long stretch east. At mile marker 121, I passed the first residence without slowing. The amended procedure said it had been removed from my route, porch light off. I noted it and continued. At 0020, I reached the turnaround point. No knocking this time. The orange stake was upright. I noted the time and headed west. At 0142, I was passing mile marker 131 when I saw a figure standing in the road. I slowed to 15. The figure was 70 yards ahead, centered in my lane, arms at its sides. Tall, wearing dark clothes. As I closed the distance, I recognized the posture. The same as the pedestrian I'd seen at mile marker 143 on my third night. I maintained 15 miles per hour. At 50 yards, I could see it was a man. At 30 yards, I could see his face, pale and expressionless. At 20 yards, he raised his right hand. He waved. Procedure 4 said if the individual waves, do not wave back. I kept both hands on the wheel and drove past him at 15 miles per hour. In my rearview mirror, I saw him turn to watch me go. I accelerated to 50 and continued. I didn't radio it in. The amended procedure 1 said if you encounter the same pedestrian at more than one location, report only after completing the full circuit. At 0253, I passed the gas station. Door open. I noted the time and continued without stopping. At 0548, I returned to the station. Vasquez was waiting. Same pedestrian as before? He asked after reading my report. I think so. Same height, same posture. He was standing in the road this time. And he waved. Yes. But you didn't wave back. No. Vasquez nodded. Good, go home. Tuesday night I rolled out and the routine continued. The orange stake was upright. The gas station door was closed. I saw no pedestrians, no mirror vehicles, no unusual animals. Wednesday night at 01:05, I was passing mile marker 141 when the radio crackled. Desert 6, Overlook. I grabbed the handset. The amended procedures didn't cover this, but the original radio protocol said if you hear Overlook, respond with your 1020 and stand by. Desert 6, 1020 is westbound at mile marker 140, standing by. Copy, Desert 6. Reduce speed to 30 and observe the north side of the road between mile markers 138 and 135. Report any activity. Copy, an Overlook. I slowed to 30 and scanned the north side. Scrub and creosote, dark shapes of Joshua trees, the occasional glint of a reflector on a fence post. At mile marker 137, I saw movement. 7 coyotes standing in a straight line, evenly spaced, motionless. They faced the road, eyes reflecting green in my headlights. Procedure 6. Groups of animals in formations of 7 or more in a straight line. I noted the location and continued west. At mile marker 134, I keyed the radio. Desert 6, wildlife anomaly observed at mile marker 137. 7 coyotes in straight line formation north side of road. Copy, Desert 6, continue patrol. I waited for Overlook to respond, but the radio stayed silent. At the station, Vasquez read my report. You heard from Overlook? Yes, who is that? Another unit. Hey, don't worry about it. Another deputy? Just follow the radio protocols. If Overlook calls, you respond. That's all you need to know. I wanted to press, but I could see he wasn't going to tell me more. I nodded and left. Thursday night, I rolled out and completed the circuit. At 03:30, the garbled transmission came through as expected. I followed the amended procedure, waited 60 seconds, switched to channel 6, transmitted Desert 6 standing by, switched back to channel 3. At 05:50, I returned to the station. Vasquez handed me another sheet. More amendments, he said. I unfolded it. 3 new procedures, 9. If you see a person standing at the orange stake at mile marker 147, do not exit your vehicle. Observe the stake from inside the vehicle using your headlights. If the stake is upright, I note the time and depart. If the stake is down, follow the original procedure 5, but do not exit the vehicle. 10. Between 0200 and 0400 hours, if you hear a child crying or calling for help, do not investigate. Note the time and location. Continue patrol. Do not report it to dispatch unless the sound persists for more than 5 minutes continuously. If it persists, report using the phrase Desert 6, audio anomaly at mile marker number, continuing patrol. 11. The residence at mile marker 134 has been removed from your patrol route effective immediately. Do not stop. Do not respond to calls involving that address. I looked up. Both residences are off limits now. Vasquez nodded. And the one at 143 as of Monday. And you'll get that amendment Monday night. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. Just follow the procedures. Friday night I rolled out at 2200. At mile marker 147 I parked and looked toward the orange stake. No one standing there. I noted the time, 0021, and continued west. At 0238 I was passing mile marker 124 when I heard it. A child's voice, faint, calling from somewhere south of the road. Help, please help me. I slowed to 40 and listened. The voice came again. I'm lost. Please help. High-pitched, maybe a girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Procedure 10 said don't investigate. Note the time and location. I noted it. 0239 mile marker 124. I accelerated back to 50 and continued west. The voice faded behind me. And at 0244 it came again, louder now from the north side of the road. Please, I need help. I was at mile marker 120. I checked my watch. 5 minutes had not elapsed. I continued. At 0246 the voice called again. Why won't you stop? I gripped the wheel. 7 minutes total. The procedure said report if it persists for more than 5 minutes continuously. I keyed the radio. Desert 6 audio anomaly at mile marker 124, continuing patrol. Dispatch copied. The voice stopped. At 0301 I passed the gas station. Door closed. At 0553 I returned to the station. Vasquez reviewed my report without comment and sent me home. Saturday night I rolled out and saw nothing unusual until 0155. I was passing mile marker 136 when something ran across the road. Not a coyote this time. Larger. It moved on 2 legs, bent forward, arms swinging low. I hit the brakes and watched it disappear into the scrub on the south side. The silhouette had been wrong. Too tall for a coyote, the wrong proportions for a person. I waited 30 seconds. Nothing emerged. I put the Explorer in gear and continued west. I didn't radio it in. The procedures didn't cover it. At the station, I described it to Vasquez. "How tall?" he asked. 6 feet, maybe taller. It was hard to tell. It was moving fast. Did it approach the vehicle? No. Just crossed the road and kept going. He made notes. If you see it again, note the location and time. Don't stop. Don't investigate. Sunday night, I didn't see it. Monday night, I didn't see it. Tuesday night at 0217. I was passing mile marker 136 and it ran across the road again. Same place, same direction. South to north this time. I noted the location and time and continued west. At the station, Vasquez said, "Same location both times?" "Yes. Mile marker 136. "Noted. Keep moving if you see it." Wednesday night I rolled out and at mile marker 147 there was someone standing at the orange stake. I stopped the Explorer 50 feet back and left the engine running. My headlights illuminated the figure, tall, wearing dark clothes, back to me. The orange stake was upright. Procedure 9 said observe from inside the vehicle. If the stake is upright, note the time and depart. I noted the time, 0024, and put the Explorer in reverse. I backed up 30 feet, turned around, and headed west. I didn't radio it in. The procedure didn't say to. At 0332, the garbled transmission came through. I followed the amended procedure. At 0551, I returned to the station. Vasquez read my report. "Someone at the stake," he said. "Yes." "Did they move or turn around?" "No. They just stood there." "And the stake was upright?" "Yes." He initialed the report. "If they're there again tomorrow, same procedure. Don't approach." Thursday night they were there again. Same position, same dark clothes. I observed, noted the time, departed. Friday night they were gone. The stake was upright. I walked to it, verified it, and continued patrol. At 0259 I passed the gas station. Door open. I noted the time and continued. At 0346 I was passing mile marker 111 when I saw headlights behind me. I checked my mirror, a vehicle closing fast, maybe a quarter mile back. I maintained 50 and watched the lights. They gained quickly and pulled to within 100 feet, then matched my speed. High-mounted lights, bright, same as the vehicle from my first week. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, vehicle contact, westbound at mile marker 111, continuing patrol. Dispatch copied. The headlights stayed fixed in my mirror for 2 minutes. Then they dropped back and disappeared. At the station, Vasquez reviewed my report. Same vehicle as before? I couldn't tell. High-mounted lights, bright, could be a truck. Could be. He filed the report. You're off this weekend, back Monday. Monday night I rolled out at 2200. At mile marker 147, the figure was standing at the stake again. I observed, noted the time, departed. At 0254, I passed the gas station. Door open. At 0330, the garbled transmission came through. I followed procedure. Tuesday night was the same. Figure at the stake, door open, garbled transmission. Wednesday night, the figure was gone. The stake was upright. I walked to it and saw fresh dirt around the base again, scuffed in a circle. At 0257, I passed the gas station. Door closed. Thursday night, Vasquez handed me new amendments before I rolled out. 12. Effective immediately, all residences have been removed from your patrol route. Do not stop at any residence for any reason. If you observe a clear sign of distress as defined in Procedure 12, you note the location and time and report to dispatch only after completing the sector. Do not approach. 13. If you encounter a roadblock or barricade on your route, stop at a safe distance. Contact dispatch on Channel 3. Do not attempt to move the obstruction. Do not exit your vehicle. Wait for further instruction. 14. If you see multiple instances of the same person during a single patrol, same appearance, same clothing, same posture, do not acknowledge this. Continue patrol as normal. Do not report it to dispatch. I read them twice. All residences? All residences. The route is patrol only now. No stops except the turnaround point and emergency situations as defined in the procedures. I folded the amendments and left. On Thursday night, I rolled out and at mile marker 121, I passed the first residence without slowing. Porch light on. I didn't look closely. At mile marker 134, I passed the second residence. Lights in the windows. I continued. At mile marker 143, I passed the third residence. Dark. I continued. At 0019, I reached the turnaround point. The stake was upright. I walked to it, verified it, returned to the vehicle. At 0206, I was passing mile marker 131 when I saw the pedestrian standing in the road. Same man, same dark clothes, same posture, arms at his sides. I slowed to 15 and passed him. He didn't wave. At 0233, I saw him again, mile marker 123. Standing on the shoulder facing the road, I passed him at 15 miles per hour and continued west. At 0255, I saw him a third time, mile marker 117. Standing in the middle of the road, I slowed to 15 and passed him. In my rearview mirror, he turned to watch me go. Amended Procedure 14 said if you see multiple instances of the same person, do not acknowledge it, do not report it. I continued west and said nothing. At 0552, I returned to the station. Vasquez was waiting. Anything to report? He asked. I thought about the 3 pedestrians. The amended procedure said don't report it. Gas station door was open at 0258, otherwise routine. He nodded and sent me home. Friday night, I rolled out and saw the pedestrian 4 times. Mile markers 138, 129, 121, and 116. Always the same position, always facing the road. I passed each one at 15 miles per hour and said nothing. Saturday night, I saw him 5 times. Sunday night, I saw him 6 times, and once he was standing at the orange stake at the turnaround point. I observed from the vehicle, noted the time, departed. Monday night, Vasquez handed me the final amendments. 15. Effective immediately, your patrol circuit has been reduced. You will travel eastbound to mile marker 147, verify the orange stake, and return westbound to the station. Do not stop between the station and mile marker 114 except as outlined in existing procedures. Do not stop between mile marker 147 and the station except at the turnaround point. 16. If you observe the gas station door open at mile marker 118, I note the time but do not report it unless the door is closed on your next pass. If the door is closed, report using the phrase, Desert 6, structure secure at 118, time. 17. If you hear your own voice on the radio, do not respond. Switch to Channel 6, transmit Desert 6 standing by, then switch back to Channel 3 and continue patrol. Do not acknowledge the transmission. 18. Between 0000 and 0600 hours, you may observe phenomena not covered by existing procedures. Use your best judgment. Do not endanger yourself. Do not exit your vehicle except at the turnaround point. If you are uncertain, continue patrol and report at the end of your shift. I read Procedure 18 3 times. Use your best judgment? Vasquez nodded. Conditions are changing. Eden, we're adjusting procedures as we can, but some things don't fit the framework. You're experienced now. You know what's normal and what's not. If something happens that doesn't fit a procedure, you continue patrol and report it here. What kind of phenomena? You'll know it when you see it. Monday night, I rolled out at 2200 and reached mile marker 114 at 2218. I slowed to 50 and continued east. At mile marker 118, I passed the gas station. Door open. I noted the time, 22:31, and continued. At mile marker 123, I saw the pedestrian. I passed him at 15 miles per hour. At 0022, I reached the turnaround point. No one at the stake. I walked to it, verified it was upright, returned to the vehicle. On the westbound leg, I saw the pedestrian at mile markers 136, 128, 121, and 115. At 0256, I passed the gas station. Door still open. At 0550, I returned to the station and reported the door status. Vasquez noted it. Tuesday night, the door was open on my eastbound pass and closed on my westbound pass. I reported it. Vasquez noted it. Wednesday night at 0143, I was passing mile marker 132 when I heard my own voice on the radio. Desert 6, routine check, no activity. I grabbed the handset and hesitated. Procedure 17 said don't respond. I switched to channel 6 and transmitted. Desert 6, standing by. I switched back to channel 3 and continued west. At 0330, the garbled transmission came through. I followed procedure. On Thursday night, I rolled out, and at mile marker 147, the figure was standing at the orange stake. I observed from the vehicle. The stake was upright. I noted the time, 0026, and departed. Friday night, the figure was there again. Same position, same dark clothes. Saturday night, they were gone. I walked to the stake and found it bent at a 90-degree angle, the top half touching the ground. I returned to the vehicle and keyed the radio. Desert 6, marker down at 147, requesting guidance. A long pause. Then, Desert 6, note the time and continue patrol. Do not attempt repair. Copy. Time is 0028. I departed and continued west. Sunday night, the stake was upright again. Monday night, Vasquez met me before I rolled out. We're implementing emergency protocols, he said, and he handed me a new sheet of paper. 3 procedures. Emergency protocols, use only during declared emergency conditions. 1. If dispatch transmits the phrase emergency protocols in effect, acknowledge and proceed as follows. Reduce patrol circuit to mile markers 114 through 132 only. Turn around at mile marker 132. Do not proceed to mile marker 147. Do not verify the orange stake. Repeat this shortened circuit until dispatch transmits emergency protocols lifted. 2. During emergency protocols, increase radio check frequency to every 10 minutes. Use the phrase Desert 6 emergency check, no activity. If you observe activity, report immediately using standard reporting procedures. 3. During emergency protocols, if you observe any person, vehicle, or animal within your patrol zone, I do not approach. Maintain minimum safe distance of 100 yards. Report to dispatch immediately using the phrase Desert 6. Contact at mile marker number. Emergency protocols active. I read them twice. What's the emergency? We don't know yet. These are precautionary. You might not need them. When would you declare emergency protocols? You'll know. Dispatch will tell you. Just keep the sheet with you. Monday night, I rolled out and completed the full circuit. No emergency protocols. The stake was upright. I saw the pedestrian 7 times. Tuesday night at 22:43, the radio crackled. All units, emergency protocols in effect, acknowledge. I keyed back. Desert 6, copy emergency protocols in effect. I checked my location. Mile marker 126 eastbound. I continued to mile marker 132 and turned around and headed west. At 22:53, I radioed in. Desert 6, emergency check, no activity. Dispatch copied. At 23:03, I radioed again. Desert 6, emergency check, no activity. At 23:13, I saw headlights ahead, a vehicle parked on the shoulder at mile marker 128. I slowed and stopped 100 yards out. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, contact at mile marker 128, emergency protocols active. Copy Desert 6, describe contact. Single vehicle. Appears to be a sedan parked on south shoulder. No occupants visible. Copy. Maintain distance and continue patrol. I pulled onto the opposite shoulder and drove past the vehicle, keeping 100 yards between us. As I passed, I saw it was the same primer gray sedan from before, hood up, hazards dark. Thus I continued west and reported clearing the contact. At 23:56, I passed the gas station. Door closed. At 00:14, I reached mile marker 114 and turned around. I headed east again, repeating the shortened circuit. At 00:23, I radioed in. Desert 6, emergency check, no activity. I continued this pattern for 3 hours. Shortened circuit, radio checks every 10 minutes, no contacts. At 03:41, the radio crackled. All units, emergency protocols lifted. Resume normal patrol. I acknowledged and continued east to mile marker 147. At 00:19, I reached the turnaround point. The stake was upright. I verified it and headed west. At 05:53, I returned to the station. Vasquez was waiting with another deputy I hadn't seen before, a younger guy with a buzz cut. This is Morrison, Vasquez said. He's training on the route. He'll ride with you tonight. I looked at Morrison. He nodded. Nice to meet you. Get your gear, Vasquez said to him. You roll out in 10 minutes. Morrison left. I turned to Vasquez. What was the emergency last night? We got a report of unusual activity in your sector. Turned out to be nothing. We lifted protocols once we verified. What kind of activity? Doesn't matter, it was cleared. Focus on tonight. Morrison is new, show him the route. Make sure he understands the procedures. Wednesday night, Morrison and I rolled out at 2200. He sat in the passenger seat with a notepad and a copy of the procedures. How long have you been doing this route? He asked. Already 2 months. Vasquez said you follow the procedures exactly. That's right. Some of them are pretty weird. I glanced at him. They're weird for a reason. Follow them exactly, don't improvise. He nodded and made a note. At mile marker 114, I slowed to 50. Morrison watched the desert scroll past, the dark shapes of Joshua trees in the headlights. It's empty out here, he said, most of the time. At mile marker 118, we passed the gas station. Door closed. Morrison noted it. At mile marker 123, we passed the pedestrian. Morrison sat forward. Is that guy okay? Don't stop, don't wave, just observe and continue. Shouldn't we check on him? No. The procedure says slow to 15 and pass, that's what we do. Morrison made another note. At 00:21, we reached the turnaround point. I parked and grabbed the mag light. Stay in the vehicle. The procedure says walk 30 paces north and verify the stake. I know. You stay here, I'll verify it. I walked to the stake, confirmed it was upright, and returned to the Explorer. Morrison was watching through the windshield. Why did I stay in the vehicle? He asked. Because I said so. When you're solo, you'll do it yourself. For now, you observe. We headed west. Morrison radioed in the checks as I called them out, practicing the phrasing. At 02:59, we passed the gas station. Door open. Morrison noted it. At 03:30, the garbled transmission came through. Morrison looked at the radio. What was that? Garbled transmission, part of the procedure. We switched to channel 6, say Desert 6. I standing by. Then switch back to channel 3. Why? Because the procedure says so. Morrison switched the radio to channel 6 and transmitted. Then he switched back. At 05:51, we returned to the station. Vasquez was waiting. How did he do? He asked me. Fine, he follows instructions. Vasquez turned to Morrison. You'll ride with him 2 more nights, then you're solo. Questions? No, sir. Good. Go home. Thursday night, Morrison and I rolled out and completed the circuit. The stake was upright. The gas station door was closed on both passes. We saw the pedestrian 6 times. Same guy every time? Morrison asked. Looks like it. How is that possible? I don't know, but the amended procedure says don't acknowledge multiple instances, don't report it, just continue patrol. Morrison made a note. Their Friday night was Morrison's last training shift. At mile marker 147, I let him walk to the stake and verify it. He came back to the vehicle looking pale. "Something wrong?" I asked. I heard footsteps behind me, but when I turned around, no one was there. "Did you see anyone?" "No." "Then note it and move on." We continued west. Morrison was quiet for the rest of the shift. At the station, Vasquez reviewed Morrison's notes. "You start solo tomorrow night. Follow the procedures exactly. Any questions?" Morrison shook his head. "Good. Get some rest." Saturday night, I rolled out alone. At mile marker 147, the figure was standing at the stake. I observed from the vehicle, noted the time, departed. Sunday night, the figure was gone. I walked to the stake, verified it, continued patrol. Monday night, I rolled out, and at mile marker 126, something ran across the road. The same tall figure I'd seen before, bent forward, arms swinging low. It crossed north to south and disappeared into the scrub. I noted the time, 23:44, and continued. At 00:23, I reached the turnaround point. The stake was upright. As I walked back to the vehicle, I heard footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate, crunching on gravel. I kept walking. I didn't turn around. I climbed into the Explorer, locked the doors, and departed. At the station, I reported the footsteps. Vasquez noted it. "You didn't look?" he asked. "No. The procedure says if you hear knocking, don't look." I figured the same applies to footsteps. "Good call. If it happens again, same response. Don't look. Here's just get in the vehicle and leave." Tuesday night at 02:12, I was passing mile marker 129 when the radio crackled. "Desert 6, home base." "Desert 6, go ahead." "Desert 6, we're getting reports of a structure fire at mile marker 137. Respond and assess. Use caution." I checked my map. Mile marker 137 was the location of the abandoned building where I'd seen lights before. "Copy, home base." ETA 4 minutes. At mile marker 137, I slowed and turned south onto a dirt access road. The building was 100 yards out, visible in my headlights. No fire, no smoke, all windows dark. I stopped 50 yards from the structure and keyed the radio. "Desert 6, on scene at 137, no visible fire or smoke. Building appears dark and secure." "Copy, Desert 6. Exit your vehicle and approach on foot. Verify no fire." I hesitated. Procedure 3 said do not approach structures, but dispatch was giving me a direct order. Amended Procedure 3 said request confirmation of instruction. I keyed back. Request confirmation of instruction. Silence. I waited 30 seconds and tried again. Desert 6 requesting confirmation. Instruction was to exit vehicle and approach on foot. Please confirm. A long pause. Then a different voice, Vasquez. Desert 6, disregard previous instruction. Remain in vehicle. Return to patrol route. Copy, home base. Returning to route. I backed out onto the highway and continued west. At the station, Vasquez was waiting. "You handled that correctly. Dispatch didn't send that instruction." "Who did?" "We don't know. Someone accessed the radio frequency. We're looking into it." "What if they do it again?" "Same procedure. Request confirmation. If it doesn't repeat verbatim, disregard." Wednesday night, I rolled out and completed the circuit without incident. Thursday night, the same. Friday night at 03:30, the garbled transmission didn't come through. I waited until 03:45 and continued patrol. Saturday night at mile marker 147, the stake was missing. I stopped the Explorer and aimed my headlights at the spot where the stake should be. Empty dirt, a small hole where it had been. I keyed the radio. "Desert 6, marker missing at 147, requesting guidance." Dispatch responded immediately. "Desert 6, note the time and depart. Do not exit vehicle. Do not search for the marker. Return to patrol route." "Copy. And time is 00:27. I put the Explorer in gear and headed west. Sunday night, the stake was back. Upright, painted orange, driven deep into the ground. Monday night, I rolled out and Vasquez met me at the vehicle. "Morrison didn't show for his shift tonight. You know anything about that?" "No. I haven't talked to him since Friday." Vasquez nodded. "If you hear from him, tell him to call me." I didn't hear from Morrison. Tuesday night at 02:49, I was passing mile marker 119 when I saw brake lights ahead. A vehicle was stopped on the shoulder, flashers on. As I got closer, I recognized it. Morrison's personal truck, a red Toyota. I slowed to 30 and pulled alongside. Morrison was sitting in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, hands on the wheel. I rolled down my window. "Morrison?" He didn't respond. I keyed the radio. Desert 6, contact at mile marker 119. Deputy Morrison's vehicle stopped on shoulder. Requesting backup. Dispatch copied. I waited. Morrison didn't move. I could see his profile in my headlights, jaw set, eyes forward. "Morrison, can you hear me?" Nothing. Vasquez's voice came over the radio. "Desert 6, do not approach the vehicle. Do not exit your vehicle. Backup is en route. Stand by." I waited 15 minutes. A second patrol vehicle approached from the west, light bar flashing. It was Ortega. He pulled up behind Morrison's truck and got out with a flashlight. I watched as Ortega approached Morrison's window and tapped on the glass. Morrison didn't respond. Ortega opened the door and leaned in. A moment later, he stepped back and keyed his radio. "Home base, I need an ambulance at mile marker 119. Deputy is unresponsive." I waited another 20 minutes. The ambulance arrived and paramedics loaded Morrison onto a gurney. He was moving, eyes open, but he didn't seem to see anything. Ortega walked over to my window. "You can continue patrol. We've got this." "What happened to him?" "Don't know. He's conscious but not responding to questions. We'll take him to the hospital." I continued west and completed the circuit. At the station, Vasquez was waiting. "Morrison's in the hospital," he said. "He's stable but nonverbal. Doctors don't know what's wrong." "Was he on patrol tonight?" "No. He called in sick yesterday and today. We found his truck out there. Don't know why he was on the route." I filed my report and went home. Wednesday night, I rolled out alone. At mile marker 119, there was no sign of Morrison's truck. I continued patrol. At 00:24, I reached the turnaround point. The figure was standing at the stake. I observed from the vehicle, noted the time, departed. Thursday night, the figure was there again. Friday night, the same. Saturday night, the figure was gone and the stake was bent, the top half touching the ground. Sunday night, the stake was upright again. Monday night, Vasquez handed me a final sheet of paper before I rolled out. "Last amendment," he said. "Read it." 19. Effective immediately, if you observe any person at the turnaround point at mile marker 147, do not stop. Do not verify the orange stake. Continue past the turnaround point to mile marker 150, turn around and return westbound. On your return pass, if the person is gone, you'd stop and verify the stake. If the person is still there, continue west without stopping. Report to dispatch at the end of your shift. I looked up. "What's at mile marker 150? "Nothing. It's just a turnaround point 5 miles past where you usually go." "Why the change?" "Because the procedures are adapting. Follow them." Monday night, I rolled out and at 00:26, I reached mile marker 147. The figure was standing at the stake. I continued east without stopping. The road stretched ahead, darker than usual, no stars visible. At mile marker 150, I found a wide pull-off and turned around. On the return pass, the figure was gone. I stopped at mile marker 147 and walked to the stake. Upright. I verified it and continued west. Tuesday night, the figure was there again. I continued to mile marker 150, turned around, returned. The figure was gone. I verified the stake. Wednesday night, the same pattern. Thursday night, the same. Friday night, the figure wasn't there. I stopped, verified the stake, continued west. Saturday night at mile marker 147, the figure was there and it was wearing a uniform. I slowed and looked closer. Same dark clothes, same posture, but now I could see the details. A sheriff's uniform, a badge, a duty belt. The figure's back was to me. I continued to mile marker 150, turned around, returned. The figure was gone. I stopped and walked to the stake. As I crouched to examine the base, I heard a voice behind me. "You should have stopped." I stood and turned. The figure was 10 feet away, facing me. The face was Morrison's. I walked back to the Explorer without running. I climbed in, locked the doors, and started the engine. In my headlights, I saw Morrison standing where I'd left him, arms at his sides. I put the vehicle in gear and drove west. At the station, I reported it to Vasquez. He listened and made notes. "Morrison is still in the hospital," he said. "Nonverbal. He couldn't have been out there." "I know what I saw. I believe you, but it wasn't Morrison." Sunday night, I rolled out and completed the circuit. No figure at the turnaround point. The stake was upright. Monday night, Vasquez met me before I rolled out. "We're pulling you off the route. You've done 2 months. That's long enough." "Who's taking over?" "We hired someone new. He starts Wednesday. You'll train him tomorrow night, then you're done." I nodded. Part of me was relieved, and part of me felt something else, something I couldn't name. Tuesday night, the new deputy arrived. His name was Carver, mid-30s, former military. Vasquez introduced us, and I took him through the procedures. All 19 amendments. He listened and took notes. "This is a lot," he said. "You'll learn it. Just follow the procedures exactly. Don't improvise." "What happens if I do?" I thought about Morrison in the hospital, eyes open but seeing nothing. "You don't want to find out." Tuesday night, Carver and I rolled out at 2200. I walked him through the route, the radio checks, the observations. At mile marker 147, there was no figure. I let him verify the stake. At 05:53, we returned to the station. Vasquez reviewed Carver's notes and cleared him for solo patrol. "Ian, you start tomorrow night," Vasquez said to Carver. Then he turned to me. "You're reassigned to day shift patrol, different sector. Report at 0800 starting Thursday." I nodded. Wednesday night, I stayed home. I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about the route, the orange stake, the figure standing in the dark. Thursday morning, I reported for day shift. The sector was different, busier, closer to town. Traffic stops, welfare checks, routine calls, normal work. I did that for a week. Then Vasquez called me into his office. "Carver lasted 4 nights," he said. "He quit yesterday, said he couldn't handle it." "What happened?" "He saw things, heard things, followed the procedures, but it got to him." Vasquez leaned back in his chair. "We need someone back on that route. Someone experienced. You interested?" I should have said no, and I should have walked out and kept the day shift. But I thought about the route, the long empty stretches, the precise rituals of the procedures, the clarity of it, the rules. "I'll do it," I said. "You start tomorrow night, same procedures. We'll have a new trainee in a few weeks. You'll break him in." I nodded. Friday night, I rolled out at 2200 and headed east. At mile marker 114, I slowed to 50 and felt something settle in my chest. I was back. At 0023, I reached the turnaround point. No figure. The stake was upright. I verified it and continued west. At 0551, I returned to the station. Vasquez was waiting with a new deputy, younger than Morrison, maybe 25. "This is Hayes," Vasquez said. "He starts training Monday. You'll take him through the procedures." I looked at Hayes, and he looked eager, confident. I remembered feeling that way. "Get some rest," I told him. "Read the procedures this weekend, all of them. Bring questions on Monday." Hayes nodded and left. Vasquez handed me a clipboard. "Sign here. Confirms you're back on the route permanently." I signed. "One more thing," Vasquez said. He pulled a folded paper from his desk drawer. "New amendment. Just came down." I unfolded it. 20. If you encounter another deputy on the route who is not scheduled to be there, do not engage. Do not stop. Note their location and appearance and report to dispatch only after completing your shift. Do not attempt to communicate with them. I looked up. "Is this about Morrison?" Vasquez met my eyes. "Morrison is still in the hospital. He's still nonverbal. Whatever you saw out there, it wasn't him. You understand?" I folded the amendment and slipped it into my pocket with the others. Understood. I drove home and slept through the day. When I woke at 1600 hours, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with all 20 amendments spread out in front of me. I read them one by one, committing the new procedures to memory. By the time I finished, the sun was setting and the apartment was dark. I gathered the papers, folded them carefully, and put them in my shirt pocket. Monday night, I'll take Hayes out on the route. I'll teach him to follow the procedures exactly, to trust the rules even when they don't make sense, to keep moving no matter what he sees or hears. And in a few weeks or a few months, Hayes will quit or transfer or end up like Morrison, and there will be someone new. And I'll still be out there, even driving the circuit, checking the radios, verifying the orange stake, because someone has to. Someone always has to,